Well, I can drive that loader. I have a Class 2 rating.
Be my guest.
Aliens is a 1986 science fiction action film written and directed by James Cameron. It is a sequel to the 1979 science fiction horror film Alien, and the second film in the Alien franchise. Set in the far future, it stars Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley. Michael Biehn, Paul Reiser, Lance Henriksen and Carrie Henn are featured in supporting roles. Aliens was released on July 18, 1986 to critical acclaim. Reviewers praised its action, but some criticized the intensity of some scenes. Weaver's performance garnered constant praise, along with those of Bill Paxton and Jeanette Goldstein. The film received several awards and nominations, including an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress for Weaver at the time when the science fiction genre was generally overlooked. It earned over $180 million during its theatrical run, making it one of the highest-grossing films of 1986 worldwide. Aliens is now considered among the greatest films of the 80s and among the best science fiction, action and sequel films ever made, arguably equal to or better than Alien. Despite the success of Alien, it took several years to develop due to lawsuits, a lack of enthusiasm from 20th Century Fox, and repeated management changes. Although relatively inexperienced, Cameron was hired to write the story of Aliens in 1983 on the strength of his scripts for The Terminator and Rambo: First Blood Part 2. On an approximately $18 million budget, Aliens began principal photography in September 1985 and included in January 1986. The project stalled again until new Fox executive Lawrence Gordon pursued a sequel. The film's development was tumultuous and rife with conflicts between Cameron and the British crew at Pinewood Studios. The difficult shoot affected the composer, James Horner, who was given little time to record the music.
The newest suspense thriller from 20th Century Fox continues the adventure where the original film left off. For over 50 years, the sole survivor of the ill-fated freighter Nostromo drifted in space, entombed in hypersleep.
I think she's really a haunted person. She wakes up in a different time and she's actually that much older. You have to add on that time because her mind has lived, it's dreamed, you know, and it's probably been over that experience in various nightmarish forms. We have been here for 3.5 hours. Now, how many different ways do you want me to tell the same story?
Sigourney Weaver reprises her role as Flight Officer Ripley, whose story about an encounter with a deadly alien discovered on a hostile planet is discredited.
Kane, who went into that ship, said he saw thousands of eggs there. Thousands.
Thank you. That will be all.
Damn it, that's not all! It's an odyssey this woman makes, you know, I mean, through a lot of personal hardship and trauma, you know, through a nightmare and out of it. And that's what it is for me.
You okay?
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan. You have my word on it.
All right, I'm in.
When contact is lost with the colonists who now populate the planet Acheron, Ripley must return to face her living nightmare as an advisor to a group of combat-ready colonial marines.
We were all having dinner and, it must have laid something inside his throat, some sort of embryo. He started,
Look, man, I only need to know one thing. where they are. Anytime, anywhere.
Right. Somebody said alien. She thought they said illegal alien and signed up.
Ignoring Ripley's warning, the Marines confidently enter the colonist housing block. Despite their training, these soldiers are unprepared for what they're about to encounter. The cast of frontline soldiers includes Michael Biehn, who plays the level-headed Corporal Hicks.
I got signals. I got readings in front and behind.
There's nothing back here.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us.
Bill Paxton as Private First Class Hudson. Jeanette Goldstein plays the ferocious private from the barrio, Vasquez.
Let's rock!
And Mark Rolston plays Private Drake.
Vasquez, straight, hold your fire!
Leading the Marines is Master Sergeant Apone, played by Al Matthews.
Get them out of there!
Hicks.
The Green Lieutenant Gorman is played by William Hope.
In the fall back.
Cut off! Do something!
Also accompanying the Marines are Lance Henriksen in the role of an android named Bishop, and Paul Reiser, who plays Carter Burke, a representative of the company who colonized the planet Acheron.
Please. This is clearly an important species we're dealing with, and I don't think that you or I or anybody has the right to arbitrarily exterminate them.
Wrong.
Yeah, watch us.
Hey, shh, it's all right.
An unexpected inhabitant is 9-year-old Newt, played by newcomer Carrie Henn, who develops a special relationship with Sigourney Weaver.
There is this little child who's the only other person who's had the same experience she has and survived. We both have a similar nightmare. So they're kind of sisters in a strange way.
My mommy always said there were no monsters, no real ones, but there are.
Yes, there are, aren't there?
When I find her, my life means something again, you know, and until then I'm sort of, I feel, you know, like one of these animals that's being pulled towards something and my claws are out, and then when I find her, I have a new life, a new breath, sort of, you know.
Aliens is the vision of director James Cameron, who also wrote the screenplay and is best known as the director of Terminator.
I see it as a dark action piece with a very warm human center. It's about personal bonding under pressure. I have to relate to it as the story of the people, and it's about people in a situation and how they react, the extremes of emotion, the cowardice, the bravery, the things you didn't expect, the things you didn't think you could do, and committing to another person even when that means that it could mean your life.
One of the important things to realize about Aliens is that it's not a remake. Oftentimes projects that are sequels are really remakes. And in this case, Aliens is a continuation of Alien. However, I think it goes beyond it in terms of scope. I think you just have to alter your approach so that you're not trying to top Alien in the areas in which it was so successful.
Medical! Get to medical!
Ripley faces the impossible task of defending herself and Newt against the seemingly indestructible alien warriors. Bringing these creatures to life became the principal responsibility of Stan Winston as creator of special alien effects.
You don't want to short sell the fans. At best, what you'd like to do is give them back what they saw, add a little something special to each of the things that they have seen, and then give them a kicker on top of that. It's good entertainment. Audiences want to see on film what they can't see in real life. And sometimes not only what they can't see in real life, but what they don't want to see in real life. Gives you a chance to be scared out of your seat and be able to walk away smiling knowing that it was a film.
You can't just have action, you can't just have special effects. It's all meaningless unless the emotion is there. as a filmmaker, I can get strong emotional reactions from people, and that can range from fear to exhilaration to joy, terror. That's what it boils down to. And fear is a very strong reaction. It makes people realize that they're alive, that they're sitting out there in the audience, and they're not just zombies. Their heart's starting to beat faster. So we have to do everything humanly possible with all the art and craft we can bring to it to make that place seem real.
It's always been interesting to me because when we were looking at the numbers of the first Alien, you know, the exit polls and all this kind of stuff that the studio gets for this, it said, even though that this was the first action heroine, you know, possibly ever, the first one I know about, that women didn't go to the movies. Women didn't go to see it. And that the audience for the movie actually would have preferred that it had been a man, you know. And so that we'd gotten all the critical mileage that we thought we were going to get out of it. And so we were actually already having discussions about doing the second one. If we'd done it probably right afterwards, we'd probably done it with a man, probably not done it with her.
We put our feet down and said, we will not make this movie if it is not Ripley's story. Period. The end. And it's been wonderful working with you so far, and we hope you have a wonderful movie, but it won't be ours.
So then even in Alien 2, when we've got now the, you know, mother of all aliens, we've got a little girl, we've got, you know, all of this stuff, and still women didn't go to see it. You know, we were shameless in Alien 2, in my opinion, about this, and they still didn't go.
When you went about creating the world of Acheron,
right? Which by the way is a feature in the Ninth Circle of Hell, I believe, in Dante Alighieri's Hell. It's a frozen swamp.
Is that where the original? Was that what the name of the planet in the original?
No, there never was a name for the planet in the original film, so I made one up, which seemed to be the sort of thing that some sort of poor colonist who had a literary bent might have named the place. It's a raw and primal world, windswept, not a place you'd want to live. Cold, freezing rain, that sort of thing. I wanted to do two things. I wanted to say this is definitely unlike anything that exists on Earth, but with points of familiarity, mountains, clouds, rain, that sort of thing, and using that, create a sensation not of something that's absolutely inhuman and bizarre, but just of a place that's very, very difficult to survive in. The idea that the colonists that live there are like pioneers in a very unforgiving climate, and they work very hard to get a toehold, and it all gets upset by the situation in the plot, which I won't go into. But I wanted it to be in every line and every bit of lighting and color and everything just to be incredibly hostile. Wind, lightning, rain, these tormented rock forms that are eroded by the wind into strange shapes. And then it's all very dark and shadowy, and when you look at these shapes, sometimes you see things that aren't there. You know, that's the idea anyway. We'll see what we come up with.
It had to be a fresh look, because now we're dealing with something else. We're now back on LV-46, and you know, there was the complex where it had been colonized, so it was a different concept from you know, the spaceship in which they were in Alien. The complex obviously was a big deal. That was up on E stage with the North Tunnel. We would have liked to have built a double deck, obviously, on the complex, but budget would have always hammered us, you know, that we couldn't build two decks. The money expended on the set would have been gigantic, but we did have sufficient length. That was what I was always looking for, because we had about I don't know, nearly 400 feet to play with. So the corridor was gigantic. And as we came into the main stage, we then could branch out right or left, with corridors going off, the kind of medical section, the main section, the living quarters. It was all on the one set. Jim had done some sketches of how he wanted it. You know, he used to do what I did, what I do, shall I say. And so we got down to things. So we did start, obviously, elements. The biggest thing we found is the look. You know, what can you find? You can't build everything because we were very limited for budget. And one of my art directors, Mark, he had knowledge of some people in Slough, which is a local community to here, where they did a lot of injection moulding in plastic. And you do get a lot of rejects with this inject moulding. He found a company in Slough who had this huge amount of old VCR decks, backs of TVs, all that type of stuff, you know, hundreds of them. You know, so we started to collect all this stuff. We paid a kind of pittance for it and started to collect all this bits and pieces where we could do repetitious stuff. You know, the corridor itself was quite daunting because you had to have repetition. You can't do every bay differently. And obviously the floor, plastic cargo pallets. Again, we had to, we bought several hundred of them. We then had great teams of people all over the place looking for aircraft scrap, all that type of thing. And Crispin was very fortunate that at the time British Airways were just doing away with their ticketing computer called Birdseer. And it was made up in kind of boxes about this big. And when you took the covers off, the interior was just mind-boggling with kind of boards and wiring and all that, you see. And he found the scrap merchant who had got the contract, and all these scrap merchants want the gold tent and all these kind of computer terminal things. And so we managed to rent them. And they said as far as they were concerned, we could do anything we liked with them. So suddenly in the complex itself, we could have great banks of this. And of course, when we came to the firefight, now we could do whatever we wanted. And we always had repeats, which is very important, especially with this type of movie.
It's always necessary to know who your characters are, what they're doing there, and if you have to have a wall there, why is that wall there? If you have to have a door there, why is that door there? It gives you a good basis from which everything evolves. What are the sets going to look like? What are the people going to wear? Why do they wear it? What colors do they wear and why? For example, on the planet, the logic went something like this. It's extremely stormy. They have 150-mile-an-hour winds regularly. It's dark. The visibility is poor. What would people wear? They wouldn't wear dark gray because if they got lost in the storm, you'd never find them. So they're all wearing sort of day-glow orange and yellow, high-visibility colors like you'd wear on a North Sea oil rig or something like that. So if you got washed overboard, they could find you. That's one example of millions of little details that you have to come up with quick answers for that make sense when my feeling is this: if it makes sense to me visually, it'll make sense to other people visually. And unless my wiring has gotten sort of frayed somewhere along the line, it should work. There have to be, if there's a logical reason that somebody's sat down and worked out, whether it's myself or Ron Cobb, who's doing conceptual design for us, or Sid Mead, who's done some design for us as well, or any of the other people who are working on the film, if they can think of a reason why it should be that way, then the audience will perceive that, even if it's only subconsciously. There will be a rightness about it. And the more you feel that the things that you're seeing are right, that they look real, that it puts you in the scene, the more you feel like you're there, the more the reality of the situation is heightened on a real-time basis, and the more you enjoy the movie. Really is what it boils down to, because it's an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours or whatever of absolutely suspending the reality around you, which is that you're sitting in a theater seat with a bunch of other people sort of coughing and rustling your popcorn, that you're really in this place. So we have to do everything humanly possible with all the art and craft we can bring to it to make that place seem real.
When we came to the atmosphere plant, it was rather difficult, but Terry Ackland Snow, who is my supervising art director, came up with a very good suggestion, because one of the first thoughts we had that we might use an oil refinery as the atmosphere plant, because we wanted to look very, kind of mystique, nobody around, and lots of pipes, and this whole thing of an oil refinery. We did go to see one on the Isle of Grain. It was the old BP refinery. When we got there, it was flat. I know it seems absolutely ridiculous, but it's actually gone. But there were problems there, obviously, when we spoke to the people, and they said, well, they're absolutely paranoid about sparks, flames and things like this, as you can imagine, and we do have sparks and flames and explosions. Then Terry came up with this idea, how about a power station? And everybody says, well, all the power stations are all working. They're not. Around London, or in, let's say, shall I say, in the immediate area of London, there are no working power stations. The nearest one to here is in Slough. The next one is over on the Isle of Grain. All the ones in London are now derelict. As it happens, there's one at Acton, and it seemed to suit our purpose very well. It's been closed for 3 years, but it has the look that we would like. There are stairways there which have perforated grills, and it means that we can get this look of when they're coming down into the bowels of it, that we are descending into, almost Dante's Inferno. Obviously these things can be created in the studios, but it takes time and money. An awful lot of money, and the one thing we do have in this power station is the height. And obviously the structure's there for all the stairways, and we've got a lot of scope up there.
I was more interested in the ground pounder, the dog soldier, the sort of universal military character who's been the same right back from the times of the Roman Legion up through the Napoleon's troops to World War II to Vietnam, everything. There's always a certain sense of a disrespect for authority and a camaraderie between people who put their lives on the line on a daily basis with each other. There's a bonding that takes place there, and all those sort of interpersonal things that interested me. Coupling that with the ability to show what near future weaponry might be like, which I think a lot of people are interested in, whether they're hawks or doves. Science fiction has a grand tradition of the future war sort of situation, and so taking that and grafting it on to certain elements that had already been established that I thought were visually exciting, the planet, the sort of biomechanoid look to everything, and the textural reality of the first film. And putting it all in a pot, that's what we came up with.
Sigourney, I found, because I didn't get there, I didn't really have any rehearsals with Sigourney, nor did we. I remember talking very much to her about the relationship between her and Hicks, and I found Sigourney to be a little bit like Ripley, and I think that she was kind of my take on it was that she was Ripley when she was on the set. I didn't socialize with Sigourney, and I don't know Sigourney to this day off the set. And I've seen her at a screening here and there for Aliens, but whenever I saw her, she was on the set, and I always felt that she was kind of being Ripley all the time, or that the character kind of overrided whoever Sigourney is, because I felt Ripley a lot.
In the course of the film, I did have hard days where, playing this hysteric. I remember the scene that was very difficult for me. which was the scene where I have to say, 17 days, God, we're not going to make it. And God, she lasted longer and she lasted 17 days. Well, why don't you put her in charge and all that? It was a very hard scene. I remember we did it after lunch and I remember we were standing there and I just didn't know. I was having a bit of trouble with that. And I remember just kind of touching her hand, because we were both at the table facing each other. I just kind of touched her hand, and we just had a moment where we looked into each other's eyes, and it was kind of like, I'm having a hard time. Just hang on with me. And she was there.
I thought that, the scenes that we played, she's got an incredible softness to her that you don't see that often in films, which I thought we captured. There's a couple of scenes in it, and you can see her, how she feels about Hicks, you can see in her eyes. There's something you can see that she really, really likes this guy, really trusts him and likes him, And it's not just the scene where I switch the watches with her or whatever. There's a look in her eye, which is a softness, which is a really something that obviously Sigourney Weaver, you see, that she has in life, and it is a little part of Ripley, but Ripley was like this tough, kind of jaded by the second one around, independent, fiercely independent woman, that didn't want to depend on anybody, didn't trust anybody, and I found that, she was like that on the set, and she dealt mostly with Jim, and I don't remember having a lot of like, hey, Sigourney, what do you think we should like do this and do that? Like, what about this and how do you feel? And a lot of those scenes too, when you think about the scenes that I had with her, they were, most of those scenes like 4 and 5 line scenes sometimes, a page and a half in that movie was like a monster scene, and so there wasn't really that much to talk about either, but there was something very, very soft about Ripley when it came to Hicks, and I'm sure that Sigourney's the same way, but you just didn't see it that much because I think she was being Ripley on that. I think that role encompassed her, and I don't want to speak for her, but you talk about actors and roles kind of taking over, and she was like that on the set.
I got a peek at her script one day, and I was amazed as to how annotated it was. I mean, just the annotations had annotations, and the way she had justified not only all of her lines, but all the other characters' lines. She works very hard and makes it look very simple. I've always admired her because she's a real, thinking actor. You really see the gears turning when you watch her. And she's a very smart person.
The one interesting thing about Sigourney is that prior to shooting, she has a routine that she goes through. And if she had done Gorillas in the Mist prior to the film, I would have attributed it to her preparation for that film. But she does some very intense facial exercises and almost primal grunting that sounds as if she's communicating with Digit in Gorillas in the Mist. And when you're prepared to do a very technically difficult scene and you see your lead actress running through those pre-take exercises, it can be a bit amusing.
And she kind of one of the guys in terms of, she was called on to do a lot of physical hardships in the movie, crash through windows and be rained on and have the thing around her throat, and I never heard her complain about any of that. I admired her for that. She was cool. She was good. She could tell a dirty joke or she could be totally, ladylike. I mean, she's quite a character.
It was a critical mass for me, because if Bishop didn't work out, I was going to quit acting. Because I thought, if I don't see it on the screen, forget it. Because up until then, I'd done a lot of fart catchers. They were like characters that were, sort of supporting the leads, but it was real fart catchers. The guy tell a joke, and I go, yeah, I got it, boss, that kind of shit. But anyway, if the thing had worked, I was going to be, feel like I had a future in it. If it didn't, I was ready to get out of it. But so Jim auditioned me, and I used what I thought was right for the role. and I got it. And there was competition because in England, they had said you can only bring over like so many actors, and so they had to see they had to see every British actor that wanted to go up for the role. So the other part which was difficult was that I was following some really great performances. You had Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner. He played an android, and you had Holm playing that guy, and they did great stuff. And I thought, how am I going to compete with it? And then I realized you can't compete with it. I just got to do my work and hope that it has any validity, you know. So, but it was a big. I don't know how to put it. It was a huge break for me that Jim gave me the role.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great challenge. It's a challenge, but it's one I welcome because a lot of that is there. I mean, I've played a lot of comic roles, but I never decided that I want to be only a comic actor and I only want to do funny things. I mean, I'd love to strike a nice, healthy balance, and not only a heavy picture and a funny picture, but that within a role that there's a lot of both. That there's somebody who's funny, there's somebody who you believe, and somebody who can go full force the other way. So this is a real welcome opportunity. When I first read the script, it was the role didn't scare me so much. The role didn't intimidate me. The picture was so different for me. I've never been in a picture anything like this in terms of science fiction or horror or just the technology was just a big difference from anything I'd ever worked, and it's been real exciting. It's real different.
I met Jim Cameron in 1980. He was art directing a picture called Galaxy of Terror, which I think that was the name it was released under. It was called The Quest at the time. I met him through a friend of mine. He said, have you had any experience? I said, yes, I'd worked on Roger Corman films in the past as a set dresser. And he said, well, can you start right now? Yeah, I guess. He goes, well, see that guy, go over there and start painting that wall. And I got to know him. I was on the night crew, and he was around. He seemed like he was around all the time, and he'd be helping us put stuff together. And we were making spaceships out of everything from industrial dishwashing racks to Winnebago parts and such. And I got to know him. I had made a few little films on the side. At the time, I'd made a little film called Fish Heads that he really liked. And he started telling me about this script that he'd been writing and a story he'd been working on called The Terminator. And I was like, wow, Jim, that sounds like a pretty neat movie. And so we went our separate ways after that, and I didn't really hear from him for about 2 years. And I got kind of my first break in an A movie, which was a small supporting role in a movie called The Lords of Discipline. And that's where I met Michael Biehn and Rick Rossovich. And a few months later, I was back in Los Angeles. I got a call from Jim. Terminator was being geared up. Him and Gail Ann Hurd were producing it and getting ready to make it. And he wanted to see the cinematographer of Lords of Discipline's work, Brian Tufano. So he came to, I got him into an early screening at Paramount. And among other things, I introduced him to Michael Biehn and Rick Rossovich, who were both, as you know, in Terminator. I saw Jim at LAX. I was going on Christmas. This must have been, I guess about 1984. I just finished Weird Science, and I was on my way to see my girlfriend and her family. And I saw Jim handing this parcel off at the airport. And I said, Jim, what's going on? And he said, I've been hired to write and direct Aliens, the sequel to Alien. And I was like, God, man, that's fantastic. And I said, hey, you got to write me a part in it, that kind of thing.
They gave me a crew cut, like all the women, and then I wore contacts. I have gray eyes, and so they gave me brown contacts. And then they blended out my freckles, or I guess I should say blended up to the color of my freckles, and made me, and so I was in makeup for a full hour before everybody else was. The contacts bothered me. I mean, that was one thing that drove me crazy because I don't wear contacts. So at first it felt like, I couldn't see very well, but no, it was very appropriate. I was, in the Army and carrying heavy weapons and uncomfortable, and although I was cold because it was filmed at Pinewood Studios and it was in London, so it was freezing and we were supposed to be hot, so every time they sprayed us with sweat it would just absolutely freeze us. But aside from that, it was very appropriate to, you know, the job at hand.
The way you come out of an armored personnel carrier is everybody knows where they're supposed to be going, and you come out like greased lightning. Trust me.
I will on this occasion.
If you just stick your head out, that's when you get shot.
No, I just mean that I just feel like we don't know what the hell's out, so I feel like this, glasses. I'm checked, and I'm gone. You know,
Yeah, all
at the
right.
same time.
I buy that. I buy that.
When 18 runs up, you fall into these covering positions back here, all right?
Am I telling Charlie on this thing still?
Yeah, as you reach the door, you just fall into a position. Yeah, so you'll come up last. You go having cleared the area around the APC. All right. Okay, so just fall in by that cargo module right there.
Oh, you want Michael? He's right here.
All right, go ahead, Mark. Slowly, Mark, slowly. You got to stay together and advance on a line relative to the mirror. I'm going to lose you. See, I don't want you crossing there. I say move forward towards the door. Okay, Mark, I want you to go back. I want this to go very slowly. I want you to stay roughly on the line relative to me. March forward. Mark, you go first. Wait, good.
All right, lovely. Now the only thing wrong with that is, Michael, that puts you right where Bill's working. So maybe you should right here. Okay. And just wait here. And where's Bowski? Come all the way around to the far side over there. All right. Lean out of shot right there. Yeah. Okay, that's got it. Beautiful. Beautiful. And Mark? Yes. I think you'd move up here, because Jeanette's coming right here with hers, okay? And you come up right there. Just concentrate the firepower. You might be right into Hudson attack, but what we'll have to do is work out a visual cue for them, Derek. Like I think probably when Al Matthews reaches the box would be a good time. They come forward on a command from Gorman.
Yeah, right.
Second team move up.
Well, let if Michael watches and gets them going when he sees Al get to here.
You have line of sight?
Yeah, well, from over there.
Yeah.
Okay, you come out and look at them. Look for it. Okay, Michael.
That's how we do it. So when Al Matthews gets to this box, start your advance. Okay. All right. And if that doesn't work, we'll just keep taking later cues, like when Bill gets there or whatever. You know, just to time it out to when Bill finishes his action. You guys should just be falling in. Okay. See what I mean? That way, editorially, I can shorten his clip-on thing. All right.
It's all gun to number one, and we will run it this time with the Steadicam providing it's ready.
So here we have a personal light unit. This flows down into the power pack here. We've got a handle so that the power pack can be removed. The back of the pack is made up from a power drill, or the handle off a power drill. And here we have the battery unit which powers the light. I trained as a gunsmith initially, so for this film, which involved the making of the weapons, that came in very handy, because Jim Cameron came along and said, "This is what I want, can you make it?" So over a period of about 3 months, we worked together and designed the weapons we have now. What we were trying to do was to go into the future, but not go too far so that the weapons seemed unfeasible. We were trying to design something that would be functional and would look good. We basically worked off his designs, so he designed it, and then it was researching and looking for weapons that we had in stock that would create his idea. We carry a selection of weapons which go to about 6,000, so we've got a lot in stock. If people require different things, we'll go out and get them for them if they want a specific item. Here you have the smart gun. This is the one that's mounted on the Steadicam harness. It's an MG42. It fires 7.9 ammunition. We feed the ammunition in on a drum magazine, which goes in here. The ammunition wraps up and goes into the drum, and that's basically about it. In Jeanette's case, she was a lot smaller than I thought she would be. I think I initially thought that Jeanette was going to be quite big. She was going to be a sort of muscle builder. I mean, I designed the weapon on somebody who was going to be about 5'10", 5'11". So when Jeanette arrived at 5'2", it was a bit of a surprise. And we had to go back to the drawing board and try and design a little bit shorter weapon. That was a problem. I didn't think it would work. And I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when it did work.
Stan's the man. Stan and Jim and I obviously go back to our collaboration on Terminator. We never had anyone else in mind for that position. And we collaborated even before we committed to making the movie with Stan. As I said, you know, we were with Stan in a parking lot making sure that we could get the Alien Queen to work before we committed to a design for her. And I don't think we could have imagined making the movie without Stan, because he was so essential to the team. Well, I think there are a lot of terrific creature designers out there, but what Stan brings to the table is his tremendous love of actors and characters. He doesn't just want to design something really cool. He's designing a character, and he's designing a character, and in the process, form follows function. And he wants to make sure that the actions and the acting that are required of the character that he designs are capable of being performed. And that was essential from the very beginning, is that we are creating a character. We're not creating a monster, we are creating a character. And that's what I think he succeeded in doing beautifully with the Queen.
Camera, can you just hold it dead still for a minute? Right. Okay, right, where you go, I'm tight on the head. It's definitely, I can see Chow there all the time. Yeah? Yeah, definitely.
Teeth like that.
Careful, yes, man. Come up on a wide so I see all of that coming in, moving in. Right, and now I'm going to come up into the head. So if you can keep the head fairly still and do whatever you've got to do, it's lovely. Right. Okay lads, that's great. And come to a stop. Lovely.
I think that for me, the most exciting scene to shoot was a sequence where Sigourney is trapped in a small room with a little girl, and they've been taking a nap, and I think what they call the face hugger is crawling around there and starts going after Ripley's character, and Hicks comes to the rescue. I think he dives through a window, breaks a window and rolls down, and myself and Bill Paxton's character and Sigourney all fight this face hugger, and the sprinkling system goes off, and I think it was a fun scene to shoot, and I can remember that face hugger crawling along the ground, and it looked really scary while we were shooting it, and I thought, wow, this is just gonna blow people away, because the sight of that face hugger just scampering towards Sigourney was really frightening, even as an actor, just watching them shoot that. And then we had to fight it and try to get it out. It had wrapped its tail around her neck. So I think that was the most exciting scene, and that's really the scene that I remember shooting.
This is Jim's latest design for the facehugger mechanics, and I want to show you and see if I understand what's going on here. So, a disc spins around with a loose joint in here, a universal type of joint, I imagine, that goes out to here, and this is also a joint that allows a leg to spin or pivot in there. Okay, so basically you want to go on this here. Can you see this? So basically you've got a disc spinning around with a hole with this in there. With this, I imagine it doesn't show anything else, so I'm assuming that it would loosely fit in there and allow it to go like this, so that when the leg goes like this, I'll have the outside pivot here. It allows it to go like this. Now I've got a little working model here where there's a shaft that's driven by a motor here, and there's a disc here, and as I turn this around, can you see the action of the leg? Okay. What the leg does is it describes a circle out at the end here. Comes around like this, all right, and then goes like this. So that would be moving in this direction. It would be pulling itself forward, supposedly, okay? The problem is this is allowed to swing, okay? There's nothing to stabilize it in a horizontal plane, so that when I power it, it's able to spin all over the place, okay? What it's doing is it's describing a circle. Let me see, I'll show you more from a top view, the slow motion version of this, and how it looks like it would be the right action. I think what it comes down to is we're trying to describe a circular motion this way, and that's not really what we're looking for. But basically, I don't know that this is going to work here, and I want to put something else on the tape that does work if I can do it in time. Okay? Thanks. The tip of the leg goes like this with the setup we have now. Okay? In whatever direction, but it describes a circle. What I think we really want is for the leg to go in a semicircle, or hemicircle, half a circle, let's call it that, where it moves this way. When it pulls itself forward, then it lifts, like this. It lifts itself up, drops down, makes contact with the ground again. When it goes down here, it lifts the body up a little bit, and then moves in a linear fashion until it gets to the end of that stroke and then goes again here. And I think that's more of what we're looking for, and therefore we might want to design around that. Okay, Jim and Stan, this thing looks like a fucking Alaskan king crab. So, let me see. There's your throw on your legs there. That's a lot. And you can see the legs aren't bumping into each other. Demonstrating to you very slowly the throw of the legs. Please don't ask me to make it anymore. There you go. And so let me put something else on here. Can I go this way? Oh, I'll put it on a wire. Okay, I know you want to see it on the wire, but I want to tease you a little more and show you how the tail should work. And that's another little wire motor here. And that's going to turn around and make that wiggle back and forth. And this from here back, or from here back, can be flexible. But basically the wire is going to come, let's see, from here straight, and from here probably come out about here, that way, so that the tail angles down like this. It's going to come down like this more.
and the wire will be over the tail, and this sucker will spin it around. And that should be all it needs. Yet another wire motor here. Okay. All right, onto the wire. Okay, let's see what happens here. I've got it on the wire. I don't know if you can see the wire. Everything's glinting off of it. I don't even know if you can see this right now. But I'll pull this tight, and I'll just glide it along there. You can see how nothing bumps into each other. When I move it forward, when I go backwards, it's a different story. But it's still nothing that's real traumatic. Oops. Okay, and I'll do it a couple more times for you. I'll go slow. I'll twist it for you, so you can see the throw. And I'm the only one doing this, so I don't know how it looks on camera, so I'll have to go back and see if you can see this, or if I have to go closer, or what. Anyway, you can see that. Let me see if I can go any faster for you. And I don't know if you can see the tail waggling, but the tail wags. Okay. There's a lot of resistance on it, because well, it is going through 2 wire motors. It could be that the smaller one is really, or the tail wire motor is contributing to the resistance, in which case we might have to put in an electric motor that does the same thing, just so we've got a freer. No, it's not so bad. I just wonder about breaking the wire under all the tension. So, let me pop a tail on, and you can see that the tail actually is moving. Let's try a view of it high. See a little better what's going on, which I think I get the feeling this is more the angle it's going to be shot at. Okay, where do I hold this puppy? A lot of resistance, it's hard to move fast. Let's see what we can do about that. Maybe I should string up the high end of the wire. It's going up this way, so it'd be better if it was more flat, I'm sure. There we got a tweak. There we got a tweak. I bent it. I fucked it up.
The only thing, and I hate to put it on this line, the only thing that really attracted me to Aliens initially was working with Jim Cameron. There's a reason. I'm terrified of being involved in the second or the sequel of a film. There's something I feel very strongly about and feel good about, the idea of bringing something to the screen that people have never seen before, the development of a new character and doing something that nobody's ever seen before. When you take something as classic and that I was a fan of, a movie like Alien, and if someone had come to me, other than someone like Jim, who I know has such a vivid imagination and could take it and do with it that special something that would take it beyond what you normally think of as a sequel, I would not have been involved in the movie, because I would have been sitting here thinking, how do I do it even as well as it was done the first time? Working with Jim, immediately I knew if there was ever a chance of doing something beyond, I won't say better, beyond what was done in the first film, he would be the vehicle. So my involvement with Aliens had to do with my respect for Jim's imagination. That, okay, we'll take it a step further.
middle arms. Right. Okay, try to keep them palms down. There we go. Okay, spread the arms out as wide as you can go.
This thing's turning.
Okay, keep them moving.
Should have knocked up a quick power load too. Yeah, black suit. Could look like Sigourney Weaver, John. Hold on.
Got it.
Got it. Should have made a big tail. Yeah, I did something. I popped something loose. Yeah, it's okay. No problem. Just one of the wells. Yeah.
You want to try a little frame? You ready? Arms. And that's good. Arms. Crane, raise up. Alec, can you move your leg forward? All right, bob the crane up and down. Just bob it up and down. Not so much, just a little bit, like it's shifting its weight.
Fix his face there.
Okay. There we go. All small arms moving up and down. Okay, big arms.
Slower moves.
Okay, move the legs just a little bit, like it's shifting its weight.
Ah, shit, that legs.
Let me get that. Oh, nice stand, nice. Please. Raising. Okay, higher. Okay, pivot. Just drag the legs with it. Pivot around, please. Okay, raise it up a little higher. And stop. Okay, John, step to the left a little bit. Okay, pivot, no, not that far. All right, pivot the body back and forth a little bit with the arm movement. Small moves, back and forth. There we go, head up and down. Small arms. Okay, arms full out, full width. Okay, raise it up higher and pivot the body right. And Dick, lower your arm.
You want me to raise mine up?
Arms. A little higher. Move that head around. Stop. Arms. Okay, now swing the whole boom arm so that it moves toward me. Okay, that's a cut.
Stan is probably one of the most all-encompassing artists that I have ever had the pleasure of working with. He comes from a wholly artistically trained background. He was originally a makeup artist, and through his advancements, basically the entire rest of the makeup effects industry has grown up and been forced to grow up with him. He's taken what started as cosmetic makeups, pushed them into human duplication puppets, and then beyond human puppets into monsters, dinosaurs, aliens, and even if it's gotten to the point in the last 10 years to where he spends less and less time actually sitting in front of a table doing the sculpture and painting the piece, he is still the ultimate director. He will come in at the last minute, he'll come in halfway through, he'll come in at the beginning, and he'll be the person that will spot the obvious thing that is missing, whether it's mechanical, artistic, mold making, fabrication, construction, anything from a cable to a piece of muscle tissue. He's the guy that's going to spot what's missing and what needs to be added to raise the bar to the next level. So I can't imagine anywhere else I would rather be than working under his influence in an environment like that.
I've been with it for over 20 years. It feels like a home. I sort of, grew up here professionally, and Stan's vision is always there. It's whether he's hands-on or not, you can always hear him in the back of your mind, what he would say, as you're creating it, or how it needs to move. His presence is always there, and I've learned a lot from Stan.
I think the three of us are unique in the fact that we've stayed here since Terminator and Aliens. There's been like Tom and Alec or Steve Norrington, Julian. A lot of guys have branched off and pursued their passions, but I think our passion is this studio. And every year creates a different challenge. Is one of the reasons why it feels only like a matter of months, honestly, but it's been nearly 20 years where a project like Terminator 2 will come in with great challenges, or Jurassic Park, or Stan's now producing his own films, which is very exciting.
Well, the editing is your greatest control over the images, what you show the audience, what you don't show them, when you show it to them, and so there's a definite sense of rhythm there. And what I like to do is I like to stretch the shots to the maximum before a suspense sting, and then cut very quickly and move very sharply, and have the sound move with a sharp attack as well. So you get these lulls and then these sharp breaks to it, and that's what creates the shock effect. A good example in my film, in Aliens, is when they're coming through the colony, and they've just come inside for the first time and they don't know what's happened. The shots are very long and very slow, and the camera's moving very slowly, and the soundtrack drops down almost to nothing. You just barely hear their footsteps, and there's nothing going on, and it gets very, very quiet, and the whole audience gets very still right there, and they start sort of leaning forward with the tension of what are they going to see, what's around the corner, and they walk into the room where the face huggers, you think they're all dead, in these cylinders, and Burke, Paul Reiser's character, leans up to the glass, and bam, it jumps, and it's the first fast movement in the space of about 2 or 3 minutes, which is an eternity in a motion picture, and the whole audience jumps. It's the biggest scare in the film, and it's a little bit of almost like a cheap thrill, but it works very well.
It's very important to mention Sigourney Weaver, not only in her contribution to the series. I mean, it is Ripley's story. She's a classic heroine, and she really pulled it off. I mean, it was her. The first one was kind of her debut, but the second one, a lot of people don't remember that she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress, which is not something that happens very often, that in this genre of films, that the Academy recognizes an acting or a directing award from, which I think is a real shame. Just because a movie strikes a chord with the public is really part of the popular culture of our time, there's no reason to disqualify it as in the Academy, but that's a whole nother thing.
But the Ripley character is the character. It's all hung off of her. And because Sigourney's done such a great job in terms of creating such a complex character and someone that kind of represents a real nobility in our species, that we want to see this woman, God, we want to see her survive. And I think that's the success of the movies. All through, that's the through line. You have the alien, and the aliens, obviously the monster is too, but and it's great that the monster is so formidable that it obviously makes her more heroic, but she's completely heroic.
Lose your eyes, baby.
When I was still with Stan Winston, we had finished Terminator, and it was a grueling shoot, you know, and like it's no news for anybody, you know. A Jim Cameron shoot it's a ton of work. You don't get by, you know, you don't skate by on anything. You're working your ass off all the time, and he forces you to do better than you think you have to do on a movie, and that's a great thing. I mean, that's what makes his movies turn out the way they are. And I remember shortly after that, Stan told us that it looked like Jim's going to be doing the sequel to Alien, and I just remember at that point in time thinking, oh boy, another Jim Cameron movie, and literally knowing at the time that it was just going to be a horrendous amount of work, and in the end it was all going to be worth it, because when Terminator came out and I went to see that with friends, it was the biggest high, you know, I'd had at the time to go in and see such a final piece of work like that I was part of contributing aspects to, and to be that proud of it. So I knew in the end that Aliens was going to be like it, and even that when that movie was finally finished and it came out, the reaction to that far surpassed anything that I was imagining was going to be happening.
When we were in the middle of shooting, I was sitting in my office doing some paperwork when Jim Cameron came to me, and he said, "Gail, I need you to do me a big favor." And I thought, okay, you know, but what's it going to be? And it was the most unusual favor I've ever been asked in my entire life. He asked me to put on Jeanette Goldstein's outfit as Vasquez, as a colonial Marine, and to do the close-up of her shooting the alien in the air duct with a handgun. Because Jeanette, having grown up in Beverly Hills and living in England, had actually never fired a gun before. And her recoil wasn't precise. It was either too little or too much. And because I had actually fired quite a few guns in my life at firing ranges, I was able to get the recoil right. Now, the funny thing here is that the entire crew had only seen me dressed up very professionally in Christian Dior and Chanel suits, high heels, hose. I was really trying to give off this feeling of authority because there was so much resistance to a woman producer in England at the time. So when I came in the fatigues and the body makeup, holding a gun, and shooting the alien warrior in the air duct with all kinds of goo all over me when the creature is supposed to explode, it was really something the crew was kind of surprised to see me do, and I think in a way actually provided even an extra level of credibility that I didn't have before, that I was willing to do something like that.
Director yourself.
Years of experience, Jim. Okay, very good.
Well, I couldn't do this for anything in the world, what you do.
Well, Jim, we met once before very briefly, as we say in Texas, a quick howdy.
Mm-hmm. Quick howdy.
in the elevator. At the time, I had not seen the picture. I was on my way to see the picture. Although I heard people talking about saying, wow, some kind of picture. It was the most extraordinary experience because I can't remember the last time I saw a movie where the audience clapped 5 or 6 times. Is this the kind of reaction you've been getting?
Well, I don't know if, presumably we weren't at the same screening, but I've only seen the film with an audience once, and they were very responsive to the film, which is fun for me. That's what keeps me going. And this is not the easiest work, as you might imagine. Basically, sort of, it's taken me a year and a half out of my life, and I mean, right out of my life, to do this film. And that's the payoff when I see people respond that way to a movie. That's the fun part.
Jim, I'm going to share something with you, and I had a little reluctance about whether or not I should, but I will anyway. When I saw Alien, and I reviewed it, I said, it just came out, that I was totally grossed out by the first one. Maybe because it was such a new experience, whatever.
Right.
Anyway, I said in my review, now if you still insist on seeing this movie, and I gave it great marks for filmmaking, etc., but I said, if you still insist on seeing this gross movie, you better take along a barf bag and an extra pair of pants. Well, the line has haunted me ever since. But
are you going to say that about this film?
What I'm going to say about this film is, you better take along a paramedic, is what I'm going to say. Wow.
Well, I don't know how you feel about it, but we tried to, we tried to make a film that was as good as the first film without being as gross as the first film. And to do that, we had to offer something in its place, which was an excitement factor or an exhilaration or something else, some other emotion. I personally like action served up, nice and hard and lean and fast, and that's what we tried to do. And I'd say the last 30 minutes of the film pretty much delivers in that area. So I think that if people expect this to be as gory as or gorier than the first film, if that was bothersome to them, I don't think it will affect them as much in this film. For those that demand that, I think they'll be distracted by other things, and they'll forget about that. That's my fond hope, anyway.
Also, in this movie, you have extraordinary hardware, weapons, explosions, fire. I mean, it's just, it's like World War III up there on the screen. And then Sigourney, the stuff that she does with the weapon. Now, was Sigourney at all reluctant to do that stuff with the gun?
Well, Sigourney herself as a person doesn't like guns. And I understand that, and I respect that. The reason that she didn't have a problem with it as an actor in this film is because she wasn't shooting at people. I think it would be very hard for her to do a scene where she was in a combat situation with other people. But here she's fighting this elemental alien force, these things, basically, and it doesn't have the same moral connotation, I don't think, even though the imagery is the same. There she is with the machine gun, so to speak. But and that's why it worked for her as an actress.
When I saw those fires and everything, I thought, my gosh, Pinewood's insurance must have gone up 1,000%.
Well, some of the hairier effects were done on location in an abandoned power station, and it was made completely out of steel and concrete, and we were able to go pretty much hog wild with the pyrotechnics. And also a lot of it was done in miniature, and hopefully the blend off between the full size and the miniature is smooth enough that you don't always know what you're seeing. But Pinewood, of course, is nervous about fire in general because their big Bond stage, which was their pride and joy, burned down a year or two ago. So I was a little worried about that when we went in there because I knew what we were going to be doing.
They said the pyros are back.
The pyromaniacs are back.
I'm wondering if Aliens 3 is in the typewriter.
No, not for me, it's not. I think Fox will want to see how this film does, and if they're still enthusiastic about, or if they become enthusiastic about a continuation beyond the film that Gail and I made, then they'll have to pursue that in their way, meaning find a writer, find a director, because we'll be on to something else, I think, some new territory.
But if the money were right...
No, I don't think so. At this point, point, you know, the way I work on films and the way my wife, who produced this film, works, we throw ourselves into the picture right from pre-production through the end of post-production. It takes us a year to a year and a half to do a film, and that means that maybe a career will only be 10 or 12 films. You can't stay in doing the same thing over and over again.
Jim, who has influenced your style of directing and the look of your films? And I'm thinking mostly, of course, of Terminator and this film. So what's been the influence, or who has been the influence?
It's hard to narrow down. I mean, I think that watching any film, no matter how good or how bad, you learn things about how to use a camera, you know, how to work with actors. I mean, you can watch a John Cassavetes film for emotional interaction, or a Bergman film, or a Hitchcock film, or a Spielberg film, and learn something from all of them. And I think to try and limit it to a specific person as an influence is not. It's too limiting. It's hard for me to answer that question. I would say that if I wanted to emulate someone, it would be somebody like Steven Spielberg, who somehow captures a little bit of humanity and a childlike quality in all his films. I don't know if my films resemble his films. I don't think they do. They're a little, you know, they tend to be a little more intense. I mean, you know, a little grittier. But anyway, I respect his movies, but I like a lot of different filmmakers.
Well, again, congratulations. I think you have a monumental hit on your hands, and for a person who is not just a science fiction addict, I enjoyed it tremendously.
Good.
I really did.
Thank you. That's the best compliment. If you're not a fan of the genre,
I don't mean I put it down always.
Or not a fanatic.
But not a fanatic, right. Jim, nice talking with you. I really enjoyed meeting you, and also I enjoyed talking with Gail.
Thank you very much.
You want to see a director who's hot? James Cameron is hot. Now, I'm not referring to the lights. Listen, after Terminator and now Aliens, you're scaring the hell out of people. You like that? Is that what you want to do?
Are you trying to make me feel guilty? I don't feel the least bit guilty, because I know people like to pay good money to get to feel an intense experience and get that adrenaline rush.
There's nothing worse than being ripped off coming out of a horror film that has not delivered the goods.
Right.
But when the mama... the mothership. I don't know quite how to put it. Yes, I know. Okay, let's go back to this picture now. They're like all great films, and it is a great film.
Thank you very much.
I'm saying that on camera.
Is he saying this on camera?
Like all great films, it does step upon the shoulders of those things that preceded it.
Right.
Okay, first off, them. 1954, we find the traumatized child wandering in the desert.
That's, you know, them is very interesting because I had written the script. And I always have my friends read it and give me their feedback. And one of my friends says, "You really should rent them."
Oh, you hadn't seen it?
Well, no, wait a minute. Rent them. I said, no, I saw it when I was 5 or 6, you know, on television when I lived in Canada. He said, "We'll just rent it." And so I went and got the tape. And I was quite surprised about the whole sort of little subplot of the little girl, because there's obviously some similarity there.
She's clutching a doll.
But she's clutching a doll. That's right. Yeah, that's pretty funny. But I think, you know, I mean, there are lots of films with little you know, children in jeopardy, and you know, I think it's a confluence of elements there that's probably subconscious.
Yeah, and I hope you understand when I'm putting you in the class of them. I use that word class advisedly. That is a great picture.
It's actually a pretty good film. I was surprised. Who directed that again?
Gordon Douglas, I believe.
Gordon Douglas. Yeah. It's actually a pretty good film. I was really surprised, because you remember it as being a real low grade.
Oh, those creatures crawling through the tunnels, the storm drains, and all of that.
It must have left an impression on an 8-year-old mind, however old I was.
As I watch the characters in deep crouches go through the tunnels in Aliens, I think this has got to be the ultimate scare tactic here. You're confined. You're in a maze.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost in a way like a video game. It's like Pac-Man in a sense, except that you care about the people a hell of a lot more. Plus, it's very subjective because you're in there with them.
Also, James, I never thought in my lifetime I would see a film that came as close to what Heinlein visualized and dreamed of in Starship Troopers. Combat in the future.
Right.
I don't know if you know the Heinlein book. I know Michael Biehn had a copy of it in his fatigues on the set.
That's right. A couple of the cast members brought it in, and I mean, there are a number of books that tons of short stories, and a number of novels that deal with the idea of the infantry in the future. And I think it's such a natural concept. I'm really surprised that it hasn't been done, or done in the way that we do it. In other words, I mean, there have been future soldiers in lots of films. Even in Terminator, you know, we had you know, sort of the guerrilla infantry of the future. But this really more addresses sort of those old 40s films, you know, Back to Baton,
Richard Widmark, somewhere in there.
Guadalcanal Diary, and all that sort of thing.
When the Marines leave orbit and they go to the surface, it is a military operation. And boy, snap, crackle editing too.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that's what was fun about it, was getting that sort of precision cutting and movement and all that. And I tried to pay a lot of attention to the military idiom, the way they talk, the way they behave, the psychology of command.
And the weapons. You must have felt like a kid in a big toy factory or something. This weapons thing is wild.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I suppose it's probably not too healthy to have an overweening fascination with machines of death. But let's face it. You know, we all played with guns when we were kids, and as long as it remains in the fantasy realm, I suppose it's not going to do any harm. But we had a lot of fun designing the weapons and trying to make them seem realistic as well, as opposed to laser guns. You know, with the zap zap sort of thing, making them seem more near future.
Those things must have been heavy to carry around for the actors.
Well, Jeanette Goldstein, who plays Vasquez, the sort of Chicana team point man, so to speak, had to carry one of, they're actually called smart guns. It doesn't show up in the dialogue in the film, but that's what I called them, because they were supposed to be gyro-stabilized, computer-aimed things. And her smart gun weighed about 45 pounds, and she was 5'2" and weighed about 95 pounds. And she had to run with it. So fortunately, she was in very good shape.
James, would you assure your fans of, especially those fans of the Tech Noir club that got demolished in the Terminator, that Tech Noir is alive and well? Would you explain?
That's the name of the production company that myself and my partner, who's also my wife, Gail Hurd, who produced Aliens, have formed as an umbrella for our subsequent productions. Aliens is not a Tech Noir film, but anything that we do after this point will be. Aliens being, a straight sort of Fox production.
What can you reveal now about some of the priorities to come after Aliens, with Tech Noir, for example?
Well, I mean, I think that we'll always want to do the sort of thing that we've been doing in a recurrent way, meaning that we will return to doing action, science fiction, that sort of thing, and hopefully serving it up in a high quality format. But we'll want to explore other things as well. Gail's producing a picture called The Silent Man, which deals with apartheid. It's a superb script. It's a very serious film. I'm not directing that one. The next thing that I direct, I can't tell you what that's going to be because I haven't written it yet, but and I haven't thought about what I'm going to write yet. But it will probably be more of an actor's picture. That's one of the things that I'm more interested in right now.
What does it take coming out of you? What's inside you that enables you or compels you to make films with such relentless drive? Where in the world does that come from?
It's I don't know. It's hard to say. It comes from.
You look pretty normal to me.
Yeah, I don't. Well, you never know. I mean, if the demons weren't unleashed through film, I'd probably go and be, somewhere in.
Well, there's a theory about that sort of thing.
On Thorazine, No, I don't think that's true. I think it just has to do with how films that I liked and I remembered, enjoying and having that exhilaration hit me, and I want to transfer that back to other people, and just studying the craft and learning how to do it, and the special thrill as a filmmaker comes from seeing an immediate audience response. Now, the only other sort of genre, or if it's not even a genre, but the only other thing that has that effect in films is comedy, and comedy is not my forte demonstrably yet.
A lot of people found that in Terminator.
And there's some comedy in this film, but for a film to function as a comedy, I think there's a special magic there, and I'm creeping toward it, but I'm not sure I can do that. But that's the other area where you can look at a sea of 700 faces and see them all having the same reaction, and you're touching them. I'm not a performer. I can't stand up on a stage and tell jokes or sing or do something that affects people directly. The closest thing for me is being able to sit in a theater and watch a reaction to something that I've put up on the screen. So it's at one remove, but it's the same sort of feeling. That's where the drive and the desire to do that comes from.
Drive is right. This man is hot, but he can also chill our bones. Now, there's a paradox for you. With James Cameron, director of Aliens, from New York City for KCTV5, I'm John Tibbetts.
You do pronounce it Biehn.
It's Biehn, yeah.
As in
I can't
pork
have
and
beans.
Okay. Well, Michael, now that we've settled how to pronounce your name, Michael Biehn, spelled B-I-E-H-N, which makes it, what is the derivative?
It's German.
German. Yeah. Well, I can identify with that. Wygant is a pretty German name, so we'll share some sauerkraut. Yeah, share a plate of kraut or something. Anyway, people will remember you from The Terminator, which was, I guess, the most recent thing you did before this, right?
Well, I did The Terminator. Actually, after I did The Terminator, I played a character that ran 3 episodes on Hill Street Blues, which was a real sweetheart of a guy. And then I played another character on a 4-hour movie for television called Deadly Intentions, where I played another sweetheart. This is a guy who was a schizophrenic, a true story of a doctor who was emotionally abusing his wife and children. And then I did Aliens.
That, you know, as I look at you, Michael, it's strange to me that casting directors would put you in those kinds of roles. Did you especially want to do them, or what was it about you and your readings?
I don't know. I also did a movie called Lords of Discipline, which was a movie about the first black cadet in the South, where I played a nasty character. And I did a movie called The Fan, where I was with Lauren Bacall and played a psychotic character too. I did a lot of kind of leading boy characters when I was younger, and I think that you sort of hit an age range somewhere between 23 and about 27, where you're not leading boy anymore and you're not quite leading man, so you're just sort of picking up the pieces, and I think that's where some of that stuff came from.
Did you get this role as a result of working with Jim?
Working in The Terminator, yeah. We got along real well in The Terminator, and they just called me. Gail Anherd, his wife and producer of The Terminator and Aliens, called me and asked me if I wanted to do it, and I'd read the script months before, and I said absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you people have a monumental hit on your hands.
Yeah, it's a fabulous movie. Absolutely fabulous. I was in the theater, saw it for the first time a couple of nights ago, and the audience reaction to it was just fabulous. Screaming and jumping, and there's a lot of humor in it too. Everybody seemed to be laughing and having a good time and cheering, and it was really nice to see.
Michael, do you think at any time that the movie is too scary?
No. I mean, I don't know. See, the movie doesn't scare me at all because I know what's going on, and it would be a kind of a pat answer to say, oh yeah, well it even scares me, and I know what's going on. I mean, it doesn't scare me. It's hard for me to answer. I've never really seen a movie that is too scary. I mean, when it gets too scary, we go like this, right? I mean, that's what I do.
What is the scariest movie you ever saw, even as a kid?
Well, I actually would have to say, it's funny because some people will laugh to death at this movie, and other people it scares the heck out of. And for me, it was The Exorcist. It was just, to me, it was like, it was pretty scary.
Were you a teenager at that time, or younger?
I must have been, I was a teenager. Yeah, I think it was in high school. I remember seeing it when I was in high school, so it was probably 15 or 16, something like that, yeah. But see, some people can look at a movie like that and kind of laugh at it because they don't accept it as being real, but I did, and it scared me pretty badly. Yeah.
As far as you're concerned, I have to assume that you had seen the first Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as you're concerned, if you had to explain to someone the major difference between Alien and Aliens, what would you say?
Well, Alien was a suspenseful movie, and I would describe it as being a movie that, like you're walking down a dark alley, sort of, and it's very slowly walking, and you're looking, and you know something's out there, and you're being very quiet, and you just, and you're waiting for it to jump out at you. It's just like you walk down a dark street and it just kind of scares you. You think something might be out there. With Aliens, it is called Aliens because there are aliens, and there are a lot of them, and we run into them, and it's like a roller coaster ride in a fun house. And so it's a different kind of fear. Things are jumping out at you and scaring you all over the place. And so one is a fear that is based on suspense, and another one that is fear that is based on, action and things jumping out at you.
What is it like for an actor to be in this kind of film where so much in the way of special effects and firing guns and explosions and fire and hardware? What is it like for you?
Well, it can be difficult. It can be kind of scary at times because we deal with a lot of fire and explosions and guns. It's fun at the same time. The thing that I like so much about this movie, and I think also about The Terminator, is that when Jim writes a movie, even though it has all this hardware in it, there's such a human element to his stories. And with The Terminator, there was a real nice love story that was there, and in this story there is an ensemble group of people who interact, and characters they're full, and it's not that often that you get an action movie that is so entertaining at the same time you get roles that an actor can play and stretch as an actor. So it's a great combination.
Looking at this film, I would judge it to be at least a $20 million film. What is it?
No, I think that you've got your facts and figures wrong. $20 million is not a very big movie. $20 million is, it's going to be a much bigger hit than $20 million.
30?
Terminator, for instance, made, well...
No, I'm talking about cost to make.
I'm
cost
sorry.
to make.
I'm sorry, I thought you knew how much money it was going to make.
No. But looking at it, it looks like it cost at least $20 million.
It cost, I think, a little bit less than $17 million. And that's because, the reason why it looks like it's a better film than it is, because James Cameron and Gale come from Roger Corman's School of Filmmaking, and they know how to do things. It's so fascinating to watch Jim do things. He'll do things where if he doesn't have enough of something, like the hypersleep capsules, when you see the movie, you'll see all these hypersleep capsules lined up, and he's only budgeted like for 4 or 5 of them, and he needed like 10 or 12. So he takes a mirror and he puts it on one side and gets a double reflection, and all of a sudden he's got like 12 of them. And they think that way. They think cost effective. And this is an incredible movie for that amount of money. It's all up there on the screen, every dollar of it.
It sure is.
Certainly wasn't in my contract.
Michael, you're fun to talk with. I enjoyed it very, very much.
Thank you.
And again, congratulations. I loved your performance. I think the film is just a whopper, really.
I agree.
Okay, thanks. Nice talking with you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Instrumental in combating the aliens is Michael Biehn, and your work with James Cameron must be becoming a real workout for you. And The Terminator, and now this guy's making you jump through hoops, isn't he?
Absolutely. Actually, believe it or not, I thought when I did The Terminator that I had probably worked on the toughest film physically that I would ever work on, and then Aliens comes along, and it was much tougher because of all the armor that we wear, and it is so heavy, and these pulse rifles that we carry are so heavy. And when you do, we're crawling through air conditioning vents, and over this and under that.
And you're in deep crouches a lot of the time.
It was really tough. And if you do it once or twice, it's okay. But there are rehearsals, and then you do a take and another take and another take, and so you end up doing these things over and over and over and over again.
The apparatus, the effects, the machinery. Everything is so elaborate on this picture that I wish you would take me to the set and tell me just who was giving you orders, who was in charge.
Jim Cameron was giving me orders, and Jim Cameron is in charge. Jim is not only wrote the script of The Terminator. He designed The Terminator. He designed a lot of the hardware in this movie as far as the guns and the wardrobe, and he worked with the aliens themselves, and he's just a very talented man. And
but how can one man continue to keep order out of such a complex system of production?
I can't believe that anybody can even dream up the story that he dreamt up for Aliens, and to have the image and the idea to do this story and all the bits and pieces in it. There are a lot of people involved, and in any picture, it's always in a collaborative effort. But Jim is an amazing director.
How about those moments on the set when those big things are in place? I mean, you're standing around for hours looking at those things.
Yeah.
That give you the creeps after a while?
You know, it's all sort of make believe.
Those are life size, so to speak.
There was one point in the movie, and there was one point that I kind of got the creeps, and it's when Hudson, the character of Hudson, is actually at one point has a close encounter of the alien kind, you know, and he kind of gets pulled down. I don't know if you remember that sequence, but I remember
down to the floor.
Yeah, I remember when we shot that. It was like, ooh, that looks pretty nasty.
And those things are dripping. I mean, they were pumping all kinds of viscous fluids through them, I suppose.
Yeah.
So you must have felt after a day's shooting that you'd spent all day literally down in a sewer or something.
Well, we had. I mean, after we finished up a day's shooting, we were filthy, and the armor was always pinching us, and there were little cuts and bruises, and it was.
So you hit the showers after a day like that, and what do you do?
Spend another half an hour, you know, getting it all off, and go home and go to bed so you can be up at 6 o'clock the next morning.
Tell us about your relationship with James Cameron. Why have you been in both of his pictures? What about you has he conveyed to you that he likes?
Well, you know, when I came in and met him on a purely average type of meeting for the Terminator, he was seeing people, casting people. I came in, I had the script, my agent gave it to me, I read it, I liked it, I went and I read for him, he liked my reading. And he thought I, you know, personified the character that he imagined, Reese, better than any other actor in town that he saw. And we worked together, we had a great relationship, you know, a give and take sort of relationship.
You must be especially proud of that. It's not that you knew him or knew somebody else, but he liked what he saw, and that was enough.
Well, that's really the way that it usually happens in films.
Sometimes maybe we have the wrong idea. Sometimes we think it's who you know.
Yeah, it isn't really who you know. I mean, who you know can help, as in Aliens. I mean, it's who I know, Jim Cameron, because I got that. I mean, he just called me up and said, listen, we're doing Aliens. But it's because of the relationship that we had on the Terminator. And of course, the Terminator was such a fun picture, and it was a successful picture. And so there was a lot of good feeling between it.
Michael, if you would, take us now as far from Aliens as you can in your own acting career, either on the stage or elsewhere. Let's find a complete contrast to the Michael Biehn we saw on screen. Serving tea in a Chinese play or something.
No, I did you know, theater as a child. When I was 8 and 10 years old, I was you know, Pinocchio in productions like that, and Rags to Riches and Alice in Wonderland.
We never hear about that side of an actor's development. We all know what it's like to be in the school play, but we don't think to say, well, Michael Biehn must have been in a school play.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of community theater when I was a child.
Did that help, or was
I think so. I think so. I think it gave me a confidence of knowing that I could do it at a very young age, and it's like playing sports or riding a bicycle. I think once you do it, you know you can at least you can do it well enough that you won't embarrass yourself. And so when I made a jump and went out to Los Angeles, I knew that I was somewhat capable. You know, so I think it helped.
And you're in LA to stay now? This is your
I'd like to probably live in another spot other than Los Angeles, but at the moment I kind of have to be there because that's where the film industry is.
What's going to be Cameron's future projects, and will he continue now to work with you? Would you like that, or would you prefer to break away to other things?
Well, Jim and I have worked in 2 films in 3 years. So I actually feel that Jim will be making films for another 30 years. 40 years.
Wow.
And whatever. I mean, he's 30, another 30 years, and so it wouldn't surprise me if we worked again.
Now, if that happens, would you be the lead?
Would I be the lead?
I'm thinking of Kurt Russell and John Carpenter, for example. Could it become that kind of a thing?
I don't really know what you mean, the lead.
Well, in other words, maybe you might have the role that Sigourney Weaver would have, not as a woman, obviously, but as the main male role. You would be the headliner, you know?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not interested in so much in playing the lead or playing like the above the title characters. I am in finding a role that is will make me stretch as an actor, you know, and make me work and do something different.
Anybody who can be on a set and have to imagine all of the effects that you must have been called upon to imagine throughout the shooting must be a heck of an actor. right? There were times when he's saying, okay, now beyond that next turn or up on the ceiling, you're seeing whatever.
That's true, but I feel that anytime an actor is working in a scene, it's make believe, and you're always concentrating and trying to find the truth. And if I'm doing a scene with you, you're playing a character, and I'm believing you're a character. And to me, it's just as easy to work, not just as easy, but it can be just as easy to work with nothing there and use your own imagination, or with an alien there, as it is to work with another actor. I don't really see the big difference.
Might be the same sometimes.
Sometimes it's easier.
Michael, one last thing. If you were watching this film fresh, or if you can remove yourself from it enough, would it scare you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would this thing get to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And are you
Didn't
making
it scare you?
You bet. But I'm asking you, any predictions about what this is going to do to the American public?
That's all I can say is that if you like the Terminator, you'll like this movie. If you liked Alien, you'll like this movie. If you like both those movies, it's out of this world.
In the battle against the aliens, Michael Biehn.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And from New York City for KCTV5, I'm John Tibbetts.
Excuse me, Bobby, do you need to re-up?
Yes, I do need to do re-asks.
And speed.
Well, Sigourney, we're sitting here having a little girl talk.
That's right.
Asking about your husband, Jim Simpson, and mentioning your new hairdo and all. You're looking wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have to congratulate you on your performance. I thought, you were fantastic in Alien, but my gosh, this is even more fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Wonderful performance.
Thank you very much.
Yes, but after a while, especially toward the end of the movie, Sigourney, I was sitting there and you were doing your number with the gun and all, and I thought Sylvester Stallone is going to be so jealous.
Well, I used to call myself Rambolina when I had to do those scenes because I felt so. I think, well, the Yale School of Drama certainly didn't prepare me for this, But it was interesting.
Were they difficult for you?
Actually, I felt that the actual use of the guns was very difficult for me. I had a sort of an unanticipated, very uncomfortable reaction to shooting and killing things. I think I'm so glad that they were monsters and not people, because I think that would have been much, much harder. But I think that's good. I sort of tried to use that because I don't think Ripley is a violent person, especially after everything that's happened to her. So I think that the decision she finally makes to wreak havoc on the aliens is sort of a tiny explosion of madness for a second,
How practical is the gun? I mean, what does the gun actually do?
Well, there are 3 guns. One of them is your basic flamethrower, which you just squeeze the trigger and a huge dragon-like flame jumps out. And taped to it, I had a submachine gun, which would fire off about 17 rounds, and blanks would come out, which are like little casements. You had to actually be careful that you wouldn't be hit by other people's gun blanks coming out from the side. They were always very hot. And the other thing was a grenade launcher, which was in the front, and that was sort of the most fun thing, actually, because it had a big explosion when you used it. And I would have gun practice at sunset, and you'd see this person out there shooting away, in all these different positions. The only hard part really was the guns were extremely heavy, and that in all the sort of choreography, they had to really realize that you knew enough about what you were doing to turn and fire the right gun. You always were alternating the guns, so just to be sure you didn't pull the wrong trigger and ignite the stuntman by mistake, so that even the play guns are very dangerous, and I have a very healthy respect for them.
Were there any untoward incidents?
No, none, which is lucky, knock on wood. I think Jim was, everyone connected with the guns was adamant about how you carry them, how you hand them to each other. Sometimes the guns would lock, and that's dangerous because then when you pass it, it can sometimes go off. I mean, basically, we treated them like real guns, and so no one got hurt.
Did they have to twist your arm to get you to do this one?
Not really. Maybe, Slightly. My first reaction was that I wasn't crazy to do another one because the first one was, I thought, had stood up very well and was very innovative. But the story that Jim Cameron had created, and his commitment to the character of Ripley and the set of circumstances that she's presented with at the beginning of the picture, which was that she comes back and she's been lost in space and her family is gone. No one believes her story. She is, in a sense, an outcast in the society. And it's the isolation of that and her memories that I think drive her back. I don't think she decides to go back to this planet to be heroic or for unselfish reasons. I think she basically goes because she needs something to keep her busy. And I don't think it's really till she meets this little girl on the planet that her desire to really live and that she's reignited somehow, and she becomes sort of like the old Ripley, who was very rational, very practical, and methodical.
I don't see any way this will not be a blockbuster hit. I mean, the word of mouth around here, I'm sure you're aware of it, just fantastic.
Oh, good.
So that brings up Alien 3.
Oh, well, I think that's, it took someone as talented and crazy as Jim Cameron, I think, to come up with a story that was as good as the first one. And I would be surprised if it could happen again. And I have a feeling if it happened again that Newt would have grown up, the little girl, and that she would be the one to go off and carry the guns through space.
Are you saying Sigourney would not do another one?
Well, again, I think they would have to twist my arm the next time. But of course, I didn't think I'd do this one either, so we'll see what happens.
What was your reaction, Sigourney, the first time you saw the film completed? Were you scared? Was it scary for you?
Only to see my work. You know, you finally have to sort of face, you know, there are always things that aren't what you wanted. But in terms of the actual movie, I was less scared this time. I don't know why. I was fascinated by the reactions around me because a lot of people were shrinking and screaming and laughing, and I knew most of them because some of them were my friends, and I said, well, how'd you like it later? And they go, oh, we loved it, but you would never think it to look at them because they were really squirming and hiding behind their sweaters. And I know one woman who literally saw the whole picture like that. I mean, she was like a yogi. It was very funny.
Well, it's got hit written all over it, Sigourney, and wish we had more time, but I thoroughly enjoyed this visit, as always.
Me too.
Thank you so much, and congratulations again on your performance. Really neat.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.
Well, if you're going to take on an alien, you can take a blueprint from Sigourney Weaver here in that picture, because really, single-handedly, once again, you're called upon to defeat the forces of darkness. Question is, in this film, as in the last, the strong female presence who's ultimately victorious. I mean, this has got to be one of the great attractions for you. Was it a built-in factor in the second film? Was it always going to be that way, and was that what attracted you ultimately?
Well, I think what attracted me to this, the second movie, Aliens, is the fact that she's not strong in the beginning. In a way, she's a character out of time, and she's, I think, battle-weary, and she's disillusioned, and she's burned out. And the fact that it's because, really, of a reluctantly and against her better judgment, she's pulled back into a situation where she has to take over again. I could feel her mental exhaustion, in a way. I could feel her forcing herself to do it, and it's really because of this little girl that she does it. But she's not anymore that same kind of rational, go-getter, eager beaver that she was in the first movie. All that is gone. It's really been killed off, you know.
Now, if you were the mother of that 9-year-old girl, or of a 9-year-old daughter, would you take her to see Aliens?
I don't think I would, but
kind of ironic,
it depends on the the little person. For instance, I felt Carrie Henn, who played the little girl, because she came from such a normal family and because she's such a hard-headed little girl, that she could play the part without it affecting her. You know, I think it was a very good thing for her. But in the beginning, I was worried. I thought if she does a really good job, maybe she'll be frightened, and maybe she'll have terrible nightmares. And actually she was very down to earth about all that. She'd say, "Oh, it just looks like a rubber chicken," you know. I mean, she was much less impressed by it all than I was. But I think you have to be. I mean, I am so impressionable. I cannot watch anything scary, or I really, no matter how stupid it is, I get scared for the next 2 or 3 days.
Anything in your youth that you saw on screen that just traumatized you practically?
Well, I remember we went to see The Light in the Forest and like Perry the Flying Squirrel or something, Walt Disney, and they had a coming attraction for The Fly. Or The Tingler, that's what it was.
William Castle.
And my parents were horrified because their children came home just sort of catatonic with fear about this the coming attraction they'd seen, and they thought, well, they shouldn't show those things if you're sending your kids to a Disney movie.
Well, did you go to any of those? Either on the sly or with their
No, because
approval?
I'm so easily frightened. I mean, Aliens is probably the one movie I can see without blinking an eye, you know, because I know what's going to happen. But The Exorcist took me years to see it, you know, and Halloween, I can't bear it, you know, anything that might happen, you know. At least Aliens takes place in space, you know.
Even though these pictures are showing women so resourceful and so effective that more than any other kind of motion picture being made today, oddly enough, the role models are there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they're all pretty, I mean, I would say women's roles are getting much more interesting now. I mean, for instance, in Aliens, Vasquez is a great woman's part. You know, she's so tough. She's really the truest soldier, besides perhaps Hicks, that Michael Biehn plays, in the whole group. She's the toughest. And you know, you have Ripley, who's sort of like not gun-oriented, and then you have Vasquez, who really is a heavy
Although
hitter.
Ripley takes on that giant suit device,
That's
how
true.
much of that was really an operational device?
Well, the man there was a man standing inside it, covered by sort of a seat cover, and we choreographed together with Jim our moves, and basically we had some hydraulics, but basically we were doing it, and it took some practice to get used to it. It is a sort of frightening thing because, first of all, I'm like in this iron cage. You know, if it falls over, I'll just be like squashed tuna fish or something. But I like that part of it because by that time, in the story, I had become a warrior. I had nothing left to lose. Exactly, and I liked having everything just disappear except that sort of samurai idea.
You must have had a lot of gags thrown at you about, Sigourney, aren't you tall enough already? Or something like that?
Actually, I wasn't, but I would make a lot of jokes about myself being Rambo-Lena with all these guns, which I really detest guns, and I thought, how am I in this movie? You know, and I sort of read the script without even noticing the guns. Because it doesn't glorify them, except it does. It says you shouldn't depend on guns, and at the same time, aren't they beautiful? You know, so.
Just for the record, now, the name Sigourney is so unusual, but maybe we have a recollection of it from a book we've read, huh?
Yes, I took it from The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I must say it's sort of an eccentric thing to do, but I do think it's a pretty name, and I was looking for a longer name because I was so tall. I thought I needed like.
What is your reaction generally to a lot of the press hype that you've been getting for the last year or so about one of the new glamour women, one of the truly effective actresses?
Oh, really?
Do you look at that with some astonishment? Are you pleased secretly?
Oh, I'm pleased. I mean, I think I am perhaps glamorous today, but that's because we've all been working on it for. I mean, I wear very little makeup, and I never wear any jewelry. And
did somebody shear off your hair with scissors?
Yeah, they wanted me to wear the wig through the whole thing, and I said, you know, you don't understand how I can fly around with all these guns and this baby in my arms with a wig that'll be coming off mid-shot. So it was my idea to cut my hair, and I think it works much better. I think she should look physically different. It is as if sort of some of her strength is cut off, you know, like Samson.
Now, even though this is coming from the woman who does not like to go see horror pictures, for those who do, is this film going to scare them?
Well, I think it's pretty scary, and I think it's pretty funny. I enjoyed hearing the audience the other night sort of get involved and call up to the screen, and, you know, apparently when Newt says, "I'm scared," and I say, "Me too," one guy said, "Yeah, me too." You know, I mean, I think that's terrific. It's very you really participate in this movie. You know, it's very visceral.
And the chief participant, the demolisher of the aliens,
Yes.
Sigourney Weaver, and from New York City. For KCTV5, I'm John Tibbetts.
It's not easy being the only human on a distant planet to survive an alien attack. Now imagine doing that and being 9 years old. That's the task Carrie Henn faces as Newt in the new movie Aliens. Take a look at her work with co-star Sigourney Weaver. And Carrie Henn joins us with Sigourney Weaver, the stars of Alien. And it's nice to see you. Boy, did you get to help select Carrie?
Not really. I met Carrie. They had interviewed thousands of little girls in America and in England by going around to the American bases and talking to all the little children. And so Carrie was their first choice, and I met Carrie. I guess it wasn't final, but we met and we went through a couple of scenes. We did that scene, remember? And we went through it, and we did almost all our scenes that day, and then, you know, it was obvious to everybody that we were really lucky.
Carrie, I should point out that your parents are from the States, but you lived in England for a long time because your father's in the service, right? And they came to your school in England and photographed you all, out on the playground at lunchtime or something?
Well, we were eating lunch, and Sarah Jackson came around taking all the girls' photos.
And then they asked you to come and try out for the part. Had you done any acting before?
No.
This is the first time? Was it scary going to the set the first day and not really knowing what was expected of you? Well, tell me about that first day on the set.
Well, the first day I went on the set, I was kind of nervous. And then Sigourney told me not to be nervous because you have to just pretend as if you weren't nervous in that.
So she really gave you a lot of advice. You two hit it off incredibly well. What do you think it was? What is it? I mean, sometimes people just mesh. What was it that made this pair work? Why were you so comfortable together, do you think?
Well, I think that we always were like little partners together, you know. I mean, I think that Carrie had a big job to do, and she did it so professionally. You would never know that she hadn't done anything before, but she was also fun, you know, and she was very, I have to say that when I really had a hard scene to do and I really needed Carrie to be there in character and everything else, you were really there, you know, and I can't tell you how much that helped me, you know, because Carrie also didn't take everything too seriously, you know. She would.
All right, that's what I'd like. I'd like to know what it was like there on the set. For instance, that you had teachers, right, to teach you school while you were there. Was it hard to concentrate and be in school at the same time as doing the movie?
No.
No? What was it like being on the set instead of being out of your normal surroundings, not in school, and being on the big movie set, working, and really working? You had a lot of demands on you. Did you find it fun?
It was fun, but hard work.
Was it scary at all? I mean, if anybody goes to see this movie, were those things scary to you as it was happening?
No.
Not at all?
No.
How about for you, Sigourney?
No, I was more scared than Carrie, and Carrie would make fun of me, and she would also, she would say, "Oh, Sigourney, come over here," and then she'd jump out at me like that and be the alien queen. She was unscarable, and the director was very glad finally when Carrie saw the movie that she admitted that she'd been scared. But I don't think she's
okay. So
easily
Carrie,
scared.
when you saw the movie and you sat in the movie theater, then you thought it was scary. Yeah? I hear you were always playing tricks on Sigourney. You're a little trickster? I heard even this morning as you came in the door, you were still doing it. But you also helped her get into character.
It's true.
And that's important. Do you want to make more movies? It was fun. Somehow after I see this movie, I think people are going to say, she's going to be able to make more movies. Good luck to you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Sigourney, nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Aliens opened to generally positive reviews. It appeared on the cover of the July 28, 1986 edition of Time magazine, which called it the summer's scariest movie. Most reviewers agreed Aliens was a worthy successor to Alien.
Our next movie is named Aliens, and I suppose it's technically a sequel to Alien, that very good science fiction thriller from back in 1979. But this movie stands alone, however, as a self-contained story, and in some ways it's probably better than the original. It has wall-to-wall action and a lot more scenes involving those unspeakably horrible aliens with all their rows of sharp little teeth and their habit of using human beings as incubators. The movie stars Sigourney Weaver as the only survivor of the original expedition which discovered those aliens, And now she's joined another expedition which is returning to the planet where they were found. The android turns out to be more human than the humans, kind of like Mr. Spock on Star Trek. The group leader, on the other hand, is an inexperienced greenhorn, and Weaver takes over after a patrol gets into trouble. She's going in to rescue a patrol that's on the human camp on that planet, and she finds out the extraterrestrials are deadly, but they're not invincible. She gets a briefing on some weapons to stop them. I like Sigourney Weaver. I like her in this movie. I like her in almost everything she's done. But you may have noticed that you didn't see any of the actual aliens in those scenes that we showed you. I think the movie company is trying to keep the aliens a secret until you see the movie, or maybe they're afraid that the aliens are such a turnoff that if you do see them, you won't go to the movie. And that sort of leads into my kind of two-sided review of this film. This is one of those on the one hand and on the other hand movies. On the one hand, it's very well made. Sigourney Weaver does a terrific, very strong acting job. She holds the movie together with a powerful performance. The special effects are outstanding. The movie is scary and horrifying and disgusting from one end to the other, and I have nothing but admiration for its craftsmanship. But on the other hand, and this is a big but, at the end of the movie, you know what? I felt really bad. My stomach was all knotted up, and I was jumpy and unhappy and tense, and it took me a while to get back to normal again. Aliens was so strong it was overkill. It really did upset me. So as a movie critic, I'm giving the movie thumbs up. I think it's a good thriller. But if I were talking to a friend, I think I'd say, hey, I'm not sure you want to see this movie. You know, what kind of a mood are you in?
And I will use you and everyone listening to me as a good friend and say, hey, I think you want to see this movie.
Really?
Yes, for the following reasons. I think the key word in your review was overkill. This is pretty much wall to wall. The monsters are on the attack. And once we see the first monster, from that point out, you got about an hour or more of monsters on attack. Mm-hmm. And that was about probably a half an hour too much for me. And I have another objection, and this is one of long-standing. I think one of the cheapest shots you can do in a movie is show a child in peril. Mm-hmm. You know, a kid in front of the street and will the car run them down. When I see a movie do that I check out of that picture because I think they're taking the easy way out. And I know that the kid, unless it's one of these comedy splatter films or something, the kid is not going to get nailed, so it held no suspense for me. And this movie holds that little girl that we saw in the last scene in peril for quite a long time. She's probably in peril for 15 minutes of the movie. And I was saying, who needs the grief? I don't want to see the little girl grabbed.
I know your point about using the little kids. I'll defend it to this degree. In all the alien movies, there is always that question. Who is with us and who's against us? Because these aliens go inside of you and they incubate in here and then they pop out. And of course, since that little girl was alone on that planet for a long time before this group arrived, there is the question, is she a real little girl or does she have one of those things inside of her? And I was waiting for that bomb to go off. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say if it does go off or not, but it seemed to me that they were using her innocence as a thriller technique.
Yeah, and all I'm telling you is I saw her in pain, and I was in pain. I am on your other hand.
Well then what about the other? What about Sigourney Weaver? What about the craftsmanship? It's one of those movies that you have to admire at some level.
I'll admire it only at this level. Good art direction. Sigourney Weaver has to hold the movie up alone, and she's not equal to it because there are so many monsters.
Oh, I think she is equal to it. I will give her that.
Aliens had several video game adaptations, beginning with Aliens the computer game in 1986 and a 1990 arcade game. Aliens allowed players to play as Ripley or Hicks against alien variants. Some levels required the player to control Newt. The following is some gameplay from the arcade game and then the Commodore 64 version.
Aliens.
CBS Fox Video presents a home video preview.
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan.
All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! You on the ready line, Marine? Get some to die! Get on the ready line!
Get your light up here. Keep back, don't scare her.
Movement! Talk to me, Hudson!
I got signals, I got readings in front and behind.
There's nothing back here.
Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us. Get them out of there!
They cut the power.
How could they cut the power, man? They're animals. There's movement all over the place. 5 meters, man. 4.
Aliens. This time, it's war. Check your local video store for details.
Aliens was released on VHS in February 1987. A modified cut including scenes deleted from the theatrical release was broadcast on CBS in 1989, and a further extended edition with more deleted scenes, including the opening scene of Newt's family investigating the derelict spacecraft, was released on Laserdisc in 1991. The extended cut is 157 minutes long, 20 minutes longer than the theatrical cut, and Cameron has stated it is his preferred version.
You're going out there to destroy them, right?
That's the plan.
Talk to me, Hudson!
Get them out of there!
It's an odyssey this woman makes, you know, I mean, through a lot of personal hardship and trauma, you know, through a nightmare and out of it. And that's what it is for me.
All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! You on the ready line, Marine? Get some to die! Get on the ready line!
There's nothing back here. Look, I'm telling you, there's something moving and it ain't us. How could they cut the power, man? They're animals. There's movement all over the place. 5 meters, man. 4.
Aliens.
We're surrounded, and we're not giving up!
Let's do it! Ripley's got the power loader, the ultimate battle suit, perfect in a pinch, with all the anti-alien firepower a Marine could ask for. And when things get out of control, send in the Stinger, 4 wheels of rocket-powered punishment and a trapper line for hanging aliens out to dry. Ugly aliens getting you down?
Send in the Marines! Aliens!
They're unstoppable! But we've got to give it our best shot! Send in the Marines! We're the Space Marines! Drake, Ripley, Apone, Bishop, and I'm Hicks, armed with the latest high-tech heavy metal. Queen alien breathing down your back? I blast her with the bug rocker. Button heads with a bull alien? Ripley frags him with the turbo torch. Alien invasion problem?
Send in the Marines!
Aliens! Space Marine figures and alien figures, each sold separately.
Aliens!
They're unstoppable! Unstoppable! But we're gonna stop them anyway! Send in the Marines! We're the Space Marines! Drake, Ripley, Biehn, Bishop, and I'm Hicks, armed with the latest high-tech heavy metal.
Look out, Hicks! The Queen's gonna crown ya! My bug rocker's on a roll! Bull alien attacking! Eat torch, bug brain!
Alien invasion problem? Send in the Marines!
Aliens! Send in the Marines!
Space Marines! Aliens! Send in the Marines! Ripley's got the power loader!
How's that grab ya?
All the firepower a Marine could ask for. When things get buggy, sting 'em with the stinger!
Rock 'em and rope 'em!
Ugly aliens getting you down?
Send in the Marines!
Aliens! Aliens!
Yo, Hicks! Something big is in the air!
It's the alien flying queen! And her gruesome gorillas! Send in the ultimate space marine, Atax, disguised in his big, bad bug suit.
He sneaks in and takes him out.
But the flying queen unmasks him! Send in Hicks and the heavily armored evac fighter!
Send in the Marines!
Blast them!
Yeah!
And bottle them! And it's bye-bye bug, each sold separately. Aliens! Aliens!
Yo, Hicks! One for dinner, no reservation!
It's the Flying Queen alien and her gruesome gorillas. Send in the ultimate space marine, Atax, in his big, bad bug suit.
He sneaks in and takes him out.
And here comes Hicks in the heavily armored evac fighter. Blast him and bottle him, and it's bye-bye bug, each sold separately. Now buy any aliens figure and get another figure free. That's 2 aliens for the price of 1. Offer expires December 31st. See participating retailers for details because they're going fast.